Okay, good evening, everyone. Welcome. We are holding 5 lines from the bottom of Daf Nun Gimel Amud Beis. 5 lines from the bottom of Daf Nun Gimel Amud Beis, and we welcome in Menachem Yemansky, Shalom Fogel, Aaron Swade, Yisrael Fisher, Saba, Shelley Zeitlin, Dr. Guy, Eli Udell, A.B. Spry, Shimon Klein, Mel Zachter, Eddie Chazan, Berish Gesserman, Dr. Block, Stephen Holtzman, Philippe, Mitchell Flam, Yitzi Muller, Ilya Shutman, Jay Siegel. We welcome here Michal Avram and his son, David Helfgott, on Kol HaLashon. We're sponsored by A.B. Spry and family for Nachas, long-term Nachas from the entire family, and by Michal Avram. Everyone should be learning with Gesund, the entire Shas. I will tell you that this is one of the most exciting times to sit down and learn of the entire year. They say a remez. Arla Arba Aser Beit Knesset Chametz is a remez. That's, of course, the Mishnah of B'dikanite, because it's Arla Arba Aser. Tomorrow is the 14th of Nisan. So the evening of the 14th of Nisan, we're Beit Knesset Chametz. We search for Chametz La'aner, to the light of a candle. But the Darshanim say Arla Arba Aser at the evening of the 14th year, when a boy becomes Bar Mitzvah. Beit Knesset Chametz, he searches out the Chametz, which represents the Yetzer Hara, and he does that because on his Bar Mitzvah he's bequeathed with the Yetzer Taiv, and he does it La'ar Aner, Ein Ar El Torah, Shenemar, Ki Ner Mitzvah V'Torah Ar. He does it with the Torah. So on this night, it's also very fortuitous to learn Torah, especially, like we said, when there's very few people, very few shiurim. I remember when I gave my shiur in Borough Park, it was like the only shiur in town. It was like, people came from all over because B'dikanite, everybody is busy with a whole variety of things. And here we have 21 Zoomers fresh and ready. Bravo to all of you. Bravo to all of you. People come and travel far and wide, all the way from Tannersville, New York. Unbelievable. It's Eddie Chazan from Mexico City. It's like unbelievable. Unbelievable. I mean, if you believe that he's in Mexico City. But anyway, wherever he is, I think he's in a helicopter now. Okay, so Ibaylahu. This is a Shas Klal, as we welcome in Shimon Deer joining us. Welcome, Shimon. It's great to have you. Just getting in, Mamish. He's sliding in to home plate just in time. All over Shas, we know that we talk about adding a fifth. We add a fifth when there's a surcharge. When you redeem Ma'aser Sheni, you add a fifth. When you redeem your own hektish, you add a fifth. Another place where you pay a fifth is if, let's see, who would do that? Eddie. Eddie steals and he denies, and then he takes an oath, and then he confesses. He pays the principal plus a fifth. And the question is, when we say a fifth, most of us look at it as a fifth, as an internal fifth. So then a fifth of 20 would be $4. But then there's something called a fifth milavar, an outside fifth. An outside fifth is really a quarter, because what we do is we take a quarter of 20, which is 5, add it to it, and then the sum total 25, a fifth is a fifth of the sum total. That's considered a fifth milavar. A fifth milagav is the way we usually look at a fifth. A fifth of 20 would be 4. A fifth milavar would be that if we add the fifth to the amount, it'll be a fifth of the new total. So which is really a quarter. So the Gemara now says, and it starts off right away, Ibaylahu. Chumsha milagav, Is a fifth an internal fifth, which is really like a fifth of 20 would be 4? Oh, chumsha melavar, or is it an external fifth, which is really a quarter, so a quarter of 20 would be 5, adding it to 20 would be 25, and then it's a fifth of the new total. That's a fifth from the outside. Ravina Toshma habaylim oimrim be'esrim. If, let's say, when it comes to redeeming hektish, so the owner offers to the gizbar 20, V'kol adam be'esrim, and everybody else offers 20. Habaylim kaidmin, the owner gets to redeem it more because hektish will get more because he has to add a fifth. Habaylim kaidmin nation meisif and chaimish. They add a fifth. Amar echad ar elai be'esrim ve'echad. Let's say that Dr. Black says, I'll give 21 for it. So now the Bailim still are going to be more because they give a fifth. But we don't want hektish to lose out on the extra dollar that Dr. Block upped the ante. So now habaylim noisnin esrim v'sheish. The owner has to give 26. So here, incidentally, we see that chaimish is a chaimish milavar, because we're saying that the chaimish is 5. So that's an external chaimish plus the one that Dr. Black added. So he has to give. Plus the one that Dr. Black added, so therefore the owner has to give 26. Esim Mishnayim, if Dr. Black offered 22, Habalim Noisna Esim Misheva, they have to give 27. Esim Misholosh, if Dr. Black bidded 23, Habalim Noisnin Esim Mishmaina, the fifth plus the 3 that Dr. Black added. Be'esrim Arba, if Dr. Black said 24, Abalim Noisna Esrim Tesha. Esrim V'chamesh, if Dr. Black says 25, Abalim Noisna Shloishim. They don't have to give a fifth also on what Dr. Black upped the ante. L'fi she'ein meisif and chaimish al ilui shel zeh. What Dr. Black adds, he doesn't have to give a fifth on. He just has to give a fifth on the original 20. But incidentally, we see that the fifth of the original 20 is 5. So that's a chaimish milavad. That's an external chaimish, where we take the chaimish from the new total. So it's a quarter of 20, which is 5. We add that to the 20, making it 25, and it's a fifth milavar. Shmamina chumsha milavar. It's an external fifth. Shmamina. However, don't think that that's the end of the discussion. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'akol niya b'dvaro. Amen. And a special thanks to Hashem that for this busy night, the daf is not hard. It's not a hard daf. It could have been really hard. Instead, Shelley could sit back and smile. Kitanoi. Actually, this subject, about a fifth, is a machloikes tanoim. It says, V'yosef chamishisai olav. You add the fifth upon it, sheyehei hu v'chaimshai chamisha, that it plus the fifth should be 5. And that divrei Rabbi Yosha. That is the idea of chaimish milavar. That when you add when you add the extra surcharge, it makes it a fifth. So that it and the chaimish should then equal 5 parts. So that's a chaimish milavar. Divrei Rabbi Yosha. Rabbi Yonasan Amar, no, that's not a fifth. A fifth is a fifth of the principle. Chamishisa is kumsha shel karen. The way we usually learn a fifth, and then a fifth of 20 would be 4. So it's a machlokes tanoim between Rabbi Yosha and Rabbi Yonasan. Now here comes an interesting thing. We know that in the first, second, fourth, and fifth year of the Shemitah cycle, if Yisrael Fisher has Ma'aser Sheni, he has to redeem it and then bring the money to Yerushalayim and eat it there. If he doesn't add the fifth, does that invalidate the redemption? Very, very basic question. So Yibayalu, Chaimish Ma'akiv, Eina Ma'akiv. Does the fifth disqualify the redemption or not? So do we say Dalid B'Dalid Parak that 4 is redeemed with 4? Va'akenavshe, and there's a separate mitzvah to be Ma'asav Chaimish. And then Alma Chaimish Lo Ma'akiv. Then the fifth would not invalidate. Dilma Arba B'Chamisha Parak. You have to redeem it, the 4 parts with 5, in other words, with including the fifth. And if you don't, it's not redeemed. The Chaimish Ma'akiv, and then the Chaimish would invalidate. So Amar Ravina Tajma Hadamai. Just get this out of the way over here. Hadamai. Of course, Demai, as we know, is what we buy from an Amoritz, and we're not sure whether he tithed it or not. Demai is a composite word that means da-mai. What is it? So we know that out of doubt, we have to tithe it again. However, because it's Demai, there's certain leniency. So Amar Ravina Tashma Hademai Ein Loi Chaimish. You don't have to add a fifth. The Ein Loi Beer. And there's a special halacha which is amazing that we're learning it now. In the 4th and the 7th year of the Shemitah cycle, you need to make sure that you don't have any delayed tithes in the house. And either you have to take care of them before that Pesach of the 4th and 7th year, or you have to destroy them. But if it's Demai, you don't have to destroy it. Now, Ha Keren Yeshlai. But, you of course, even though you don't add a fifth, you have to redeem the principal. Now, my timer, what's the reason? Keren de Ma'akiv B'Doraisa, the principle which invalidates biblically Isa B'Drabanan. You have to do it even by Demai, which is rabbinical. Chaimish, the fifth, the loy ma'akiv midoraisa, it doesn't invalidate even when it's biblical. Lesa b'drabana. So the Gemara wants to therefore infer that even with something that's biblical ma'aser sheni, if you don't add the fifth, it doesn't invalidate. And therefore, if it's biblical, it doesn't invalidate, then the Mai, which is only rabbinical, because Roiv Amaratzim Ma'asr, the majority of Amaratzim take off Meiser, they didn't necessitate the fifth at all. So the Gemara says, Lema Kitanoi. Let's say this subject of whether the fifth invalidates or not is again subject to a controversy between Tanoim. Nasan es a Keren v'loi nasan es a Chaimish. If he gave the principle, but he didn't give the fifth, Rebbe Eliezer Aimer Yaichel. Rebbe Eliezer says, well, it's a good redemption, and now you could eat the fruit outside of Yerushalayim because you redeemed it. Rebbe Yehuda Aimer Lo Yaichel. You can't eat it. Amar Rebbe Nirin Divrei Rebbe Eliezer b'Shabbos. I favor the words of Rebbe Eliezer on Shabbos, that if you didn't add the fifth, you could eat it for Einik Shabbos. V'divrei Rebbe Yeshua b'chel. And I agree with Rebbe Yeshua during the week. During the week, you shouldn't eat it if you didn't add the fifth. Now, Mida Amra Nirin Divrei Rebbe Eliezer b'Shabbos, since he says I agree with Rebbe Eliezer in Shabbos, that means the Rebbe Eliezer holds even during the week you could eat it if you didn't add the fifth. And Mida Amra Nirin Divrei Rebbe Yeshua b'chel, that you can't eat it if you didn't give the fifth. So it must be that Rebbe Eliezer holds that the fifth is not ma'akiv, and Rebbe Yeshua holds the fifth is ma'akiv. The Rebbe Eliezer savar chaimish lo ma'akiv, the fifth does not invalidate. Rebbe Yeshua savar chaimish ma'akiv. So Rav Papa says not necessarily, as we welcome in Yeshua Shmuel Eisenberg for our 25th Zoomer of the evening. It's really a testimony to everybody over here. I mean, it's unbelievable that on Now we're being joined by Florida. I mean, it's on all four corners of the globe over here.
Actually in Chicago right now.
Oh, Chicago. Okay, Chicago. He's looking for Marshall.
I'm looking for the chametz.
You're looking for the chametz? It's one and the same. Anyway, but do we have a Floridian here tonight?
That's only if you hold the rock, Rabbi.
That's.
I'm in Florida.
Oh, Mel is in Florida. Okay, so Mel, you're in Boca. You're in Boca.
I'm in Boca, yes.
Yeah, Yitzi, you're also in Florida. Okay.
I'm in Orlando, yeah.
You're in Orlando. Okay.
Irving just called. He just left.
Oh, good. Baruch Hashem. Baruch Hashem. So Irving is in Orlando too. Shout out to Irving. If he's not here, that just means that he's not available. Otherwise, he's always here. Okay. Yitzi, that was a terrible tragedy that happened in Pomona.
Yeah.
Terrible tragedy. I hear that they didn't bury the Sifrei Torah because they didn't want to bury the Sifrei Torah in Nisan. Is that?
That's what I heard.
That's what I heard. That's an interesting din. But I heard that they were maspid the Sifrei Torah.
They were maspid them last Thursday.
Really, real big tragedy. Three Sifrei Torah were burnt in Pomona. It was a big fire. All right.
It was an electrical fire, right?
Yeah. It should be a kapara, and it should be no people. And Jay Siegel is joining us from Chicago, 2 blocks from Marshall. But we won't hold it against him. Okay. 26. Kaminyan Yud Kei Vav Kei. Okay, so anyway, says the Gemara, no, Rav Papa says it's not necessarily true that it's a controversy between Tanaim. Amar Rav Papa loy. The Kuli Alma Chaimish loy ma'akev. Everybody holds that the Chaimish does not invalidate. In other words, once you gave the principle, really, the Ma'aser Sheni is redeemed. We're just afraid that if we allow you to eat it before you give the fifth, you'll neglect to give the fifth. Here, the question is whether we're concerned for neglect. Rabbi Yeshua says, we don't want to let you eat it, because if you eat it, you might not come to add the fifth. We're not concerned for neglect. Now, if you remember, I told you there's another redemption, and that's the redemption of hektish. If you dedicate something to Bedekabayis, to temple maintenance, when it's redeemed, again, the owner adds a surcharge of a fifth. So, Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Kol Moedim Behektish Shechilel. Everybody holds that hektish is redeemed even if you didn't add the fifth yet. Why? Because we're not worried that you'll neglect it, because the gizbar will come after you, the temple treasurer will come after you. Hoyel the gizbar and Tayvanai Bashuk, the temple treasurer will demand the fifth. Says the Gemara in surprise as we welcome in Jay Siegel from Chicago. Says the Gemara, are they not adding? And here we come with another person. And here's Nachman. Nachman, you've arrived just in time, because any time that you come is just in time. Nachman, we're holding about four lines below the half mark on the Dalet Amud Aleph. Do they not argue about hektish, about whether the fifth invalidates? Well, Tanya, nasan as a Karen, if you give the principle to the gizbar, v'loy nasan as a chaimish, and you didn't give the fifth, Rabbi Eliezer Aimer Chilel, Rabbi Eliezer says it is redeemed, v'chachamim Aimer loy chilel. And Amar Rebbe, Nirin Divrei Rabbi Eliezer behektish, I agree with Rebbe Eliezer by Hektish that it's redeemed. That would be because of the reason given, because the Gizber is going to get after you. V'divrei Chachamim b'maiser, I hold with the Chacham b'maiser, because if you don't give it, you might come to neglect it. Now, Mida Amar Divrei Rebbe Eliezer by Hektish, since Rebbe says, I agree with Rebbe Eliezer by Hektish, that means Michlal de Polig Afilu b'maiser. That means that Rebbe Eliezer holds that it's redeemed even by Maiser. While Midakaman near and Divrei Chachamim b'maiser, I agree with the Chacham by Maiser, Michlal de Inu Pligi Afilu b'Hektish, that the Rabbanon argue and say that if you don't add a fifth, even Hektish is not redeemed. So you see it's a Machloikis by Hektish too. Rather, if Rabbi Yochanan said anything, he didn't say everybody agrees by Hektish. Ela Amar Rabbi Yochanan Hakol Moedim b'Shabbos b'Hektish. Everybody agrees on Shabbos with Hektish, Shechilel. Why? Because you have two arguments to say that it's redeemed. First of all, if it's a food, you want to be able to have Einik Shabbos. You want to have a cross of Shabbos Einik. And we're not really worried that you won't neglect giving the fifth because the Gizber will get after you. So I call Moedim Shabbos back the Shechilel, it's redeemed. Chada d'chsiv v'karasel Shabbos Einik. You should call Shabbos a delight, and therefore we want you to be able to redeem it in order to be able to have Einik Shabbos. V'oid, and you don't have to worry that you neglect giving the fifth. Tayel v'gizbarim tayv v'naisai b'shuk, since the temple treasurer is going to demand it from you. Now, we know that there's certain rules for the principle. And the question is whether those rules also apply to the fifth. So, someone is not muted. Now we'll mute him. Okay. Now, so Amarami Bachama. Hare Amru Hektish Einam Ischal Ala Karka. That's a yesod all over Shas, that you cannot redeem Hektish onto real estate. Because it says in the Pasuk, the Rachman Amma V'Nasan Lakayin, the Rachman Amma V'Nasan HaKesef V'Kamlai. He gives the money and it comes into his possession. So Hektish has to be redeemed, not with real estate. Chumshai, it's fifth. Can that be with real estate? Chumshu maushi is chalal alakar. Can, with the fifth that you have to add, can you do that with real estate? Now, another question. We know that if a non-kohen inadvertently eats truma, it's a terrible thing for a non-kohen to inadvertently eat truma. But if a non-kohen inadvertently eats truma, as Shimon is coming back, he forgot one room to do bedika. He went back, and now he's here. Shimon, it's great to have you. Great to have you.
Good to be here.
Right. One of these days we're going to get you down here.
Hopefully Matzah Yom Tov.
Not Matzah Yom Tov, I'm away. Matzah Yom Tov, after Pesach, you should start coming.
All right.
Yom Tov, I'm away. I'm going to be broadcasting from the Doubletree in Somerset.
Maybe was there a couple of years ago, or maybe.
No, I was there Chanukah and Sukkot.
That's what it was.
Yeah. By the way, just that we shouldn't forget, Daf Yomi Motzi Yom Tov is 10, when we'll do Tublat, and Daf Yomi Thursday night is 8:30. So Shelley, make sure that you post that. Daf Yomi Motzi Yom Tov and Motzi Shabbos and Motzi Yom Tov afterwards is 10, and Daf Yomi Thursday evening is 8:30. So anyway, we know that if let's say, who would it be? Eddie. You notice how everything came black by Eddie. It's he's keeping himself really incognito. I don't blame him. So anyway, Eddie is not a kohen, and he inadvertently eats truma. So when here he is. When he eats inadvertently truma, so he has to pay the principal and add a fifth. So truma eina mishtalemes ela min hachulin. It's interesting that when he eats truma, he has to give food that's chulin, so that there could devolve back on it the kedusha of truma. But let's say he wants to pay the fifth with he wants to pay with a chesed. Can he pay the fifth with something that can't become truma? Truma eina mishtalemes ela min hachulin. Drachmana amar v'nasan lakayin es hakodesh. You give to the kohen that which can then revert back to kodesh. Davar aroy liyos kodesh. Chumsha, but the fifth, maushi yishtalim shaloi min hachulin. Can he give items? Can he pay with pickleballs? Can he give you an expensive pickleball racket? Meiser, here's the third question, third query. Meiser ein mischalal al ha'asimain. You cannot deconsecrate Meiser on a piece of bullion, on a token. It has to be a minted coin, because the pasuk says v'tzarta kesef biyadecha. It has to be kesef sheyesh bo tzura. The Rachman Amar v'tzarta kesef biyadecha. The rabbis call davar sheyesh alav tzura. It has to have a form. What about the fifth? Chumshay maushi yischalel al ha'asimain. Can you redeem the fifth on a unminted coin, on a token? So is Galgal Milsa, these questions rolled about, and reached the great Rav. Amalahu, so he says, it says, V'chamishisa Yosef Olav, upon it. Upon it means, L'rabbis kumshay k'moisai, that the fifth is the same as the principal, which would mean that therefore the fifth by hektish can't be on real estate. And it would mean that the fifth, you have to give something that could become kodesh and not a chesed, and that you can't use for the fifth a token. Amar Ravina, so Ravina says, Afanan nami tanina. We learned likewise, Hagoynev truma v'lo yachala. If Eddie stole truma, he didn't eat it. So, and they catch him, they apprehend him. In Mexico City, they call the authorities, and the din is mishalim tashlume kefil. He has to pay a double payment, and he has to pay demei truma. Demei truma means the second. He gives back the original food, and the second payment, the knas, he only has to pay the cheaper value of truma, because truma is cheaper because you could only sell it to a kohen, and you could only eat it when it's star. Achala, if he does the dastardly act of eating it, so mishalem shnei kronim v'chaimish, he pays two principals and a fifth. Karen v'chaimish min achulin, the karen and the fifth he has to give from chulin, because remember, it has to be able to become kodesh. It has to be able to become holy again. So you see that the chaimish is governed with the same law as the keren, which is a raya to Rava. The keren and the second principle, which is the double payment, that he pays demei truma, the cheaper price of truma, which is cheaper because you can't only sell it to a kohen. Shema mina chumshay kamaisay, that the chaimish is like the keren, that has to be able to become kodesh. Shema mina. Amar Rava. Now there's another fifth, I told you, and that is where Eddie steals, and mamish, it's amazing. Right before Pesach, Eddie, you're still up to your antics. I guess I guess if you're in Mexico City, you have all the time in the world. Okay.
My battery's about to die, so thanks for now, everybody. Who's doing class.
Your battery is about to die?
Yes, battery on my phone. I'm on my iPhone.
Why don't you put up your computer?
Because I'm with my family. We're in a restaurant having our last supper here.
Oh, okay. So my best regards to your entire family. And I wouldn't be surprised that you're having your last supper.
I'll catch up the rest.
Chag kosher v'sameach, Eddie. So anyway,
I guess I'll have to take his place.
yeah, you never know where somebody is listening to. I told you, he's eating tacos in Mexico City.
Same time zone as I am, so it's an hour behind.
Actually, we're 2 hours behind because they don't do daylight savings anymore yet. So right now, I'm 2 hours behind Eastern Standard Time.
Well, if you hurry up and eat fast, you could catch us before we're finished. Now,
I'm going to send a picture of the Beknetstik that we got here. It's unbelievable. I put it to the WhatsApp.
okay.
I never saw Beknetstik in the world like in Mexico City. Syrian communities here, unbelievable.
Okay, and it'll never be the same since you're there. Anyway, so you see, you want to see a Pesach miracle, you keep on listening, and your battery won't die. Anyway, says the Gemara, Amarava, Gabe Gezel, by theft. It says that if Eddie steals and he, I say, Eddie, where's my thing? And he denies it and he swears and then he confesses, then he has to pay the principal, a fifth, and bring an asham, and bring a guilt offering. So here we have another case of a fifth. So Amarava Gabe Gezel, Ksiv v'chamishisav Yosef alav. Now you notice it says v'chamishisav, not v'chamishisai, but v'chamishisav, many fifths. That means that if Eddie swears and then confesses, and then afterwards I say, where's the fifth? And Eddie swears that he paid it already, and then he confesses he pays a fifth of the fifth. And that goes on until it's less than a shavapruta. He could have to pay a fifth of the fifth of the fifth. So, if he gave the principal, but he swore he gave the fifth already, and then he confesses, he gives a fifth on the fifth, until the principal goes down to pachas mishavapruta. Now, there it's because it says chamishisav. Gabe truma ksiv ki yoichel kodesh bishgaga. If Eddie eats the holy truma in error, v'yosef chamishisai alav. He adds a fifth. V'tanan ha'oichel truma b'shaging misham kerem v'chaimish. And then is he has to pay the principal in a fifth. Echad ha'oichel, whether he eats it. V'echad ha'shaisa, whether he drinks it. V'echad ha'sach, or he anoints himself with it, because sicha is kishtia. Echad trumatayr, whether it was pure truma, v'echad trumatamaya. Misham chumsha. And then if he eats the fifth, he pays v'chumsha de chumsha. Now, that's true even though it says v'chamishisai. It doesn't say v'chamishisai. But by meiser, v'ilu gabi meiser loy michdeksiv v'loy misnatana. It doesn't say it, and it's not written anywhere, and it doesn't teach us in the Mishnah, and that means that if he deconsecrates the fruit, and he adds a fifth, and then he wants to redeem that fifth, it doesn't say that he has to add a fifth to the fifth. It's v'lo yibayi bayilan. And we never even inquired about mice. So gabe hektish ksiv, by hektish it says v'im hamaktish yigol es beisai, if the one that sanctifies his house wants to redeem it, v'yosef chamishis kesef erkecha, he adds a fifth of the value, V'tnan hapoide es hekdeshay, when he redeems his hekdesh, moisef chaimish. Chumsha tanan, over there it adds a fifth. Chumsha to chumsha like tanan. It doesn't say that if he wants to redeem the fifth that he gave, that he has to give a fifth to a fifth. So what's the din? Says the Gemara, well, gabe truma ksiv v'yosef. By truma, where we say that you have to redeem if you eat the fifth, you have to give a fifth of the fifth. That's because it says v'yosef, and we dash in the vav. Then gabi kodesh nami hoksiv v'yosef. Then that would be true by ekdesh also, because there it also says an extra vav. Oy dilma gabi truma ksiv v'yosef, and it says chamishi soy. So if you take the vav of v'yosef and add it to chamishi soy, it becomes chamishi sov. It becomes many fifths. Ishakas le levav the v'yosef v'shalas le al chamishi soy, then it becomes avalei chamishi sov, which are many fifths. But gabe hektish ksiv v'yosef chamishis. So even if you take the vav and add it to chamishis, it's only chamishi soy, 1/5. V'apagav the chishakas le levav the v'yosef v'shalas le al chamishis and add it to chamishis, so still avalei chamishi soy. It's only 1/5. Says the Gemara, but I don't understand. There's another reason to say that you don't have to add a fifth. Because if, let's say, I redeem hektish with bales of cotton, and I do the principal with bales of cotton and the fifth with bales of cotton, and now I want to redeem the fifth, that's hektish sheni, that's second generation hektish. And second generation hektish, we know that you don't have to add a fifth. V'tefik le davale hektish sheni, second generation hektish. Mam Rabbi Shubba Levi, a hektish rishon ma'aseh chaimish, only on first generation hektish do you have to add a fifth. Al hektish sheni ein ma'aseh chaimish. So here, Rav Papi tells Ravina a very clever answer from Rava. The fifth of the bales of hay, that has a din of first generation. Because when you, let's say you're redeeming a vacuum cleaner of hektish, you dedicate a vacuum cleaner, and you redeem the principal with the bales of hay and added a fifth of the bales of hay, the redemption of the principal of the vacuum cleaner, that's hektish sheni, that's second generation. But the fifth was never hektish yet. So that's first generation. So the Gemara says, okay, we asked a bunch of questions. My have Allah. What's the maskan? So Rav Tavyumi Mishmei Abaya. Rav Tavyumi says in the name of Abaya, as we welcome in Mitchell Flom over here, and look at this, it's a miracle. Eddie Chazan is still with us. It's mamish. It's like, it's like unbelievable. It's like the oil of the menorah. Unbelievable. Says the Gemara, my Havi Allah, what's the maskana? As we welcome in Mitchell Flom, Amarav Tivyumi Mishmei Abaya, Amakra V'Yosef Chamishis Kesef Erkecha, and you should add a fifth of the value, Makish Chonshay Lekesef Erkei. We juxtapose the fifth to the principal. Ma kesef erkei ma'aseh chaimish, you have to add a fifth. Av kesef chaimshay. So also, if you want to redeem the fifth, nami ma'aseh chaimish, you have to add a fifth. Gufa, Am Rabbi Shubban Levi, al hektish rishain ma'aseh chaimish. On first generation hektish, you add a fifth. Val hektish sheni, but on second generation hektish, that means if I redeem the vacuum cleaner with cotton, and now I want to redeem that cotton, which now has the kedusha of hektish on it, I don't have to add a fifth. Al hektish sheni ein ma'aseh chaimish. Amar Rava, my time in Rabbi Shubban Levi. What's the source of Rabbi Shubban Levi? Amar Kra, the pasuk says, "V'mamakdish yigol es beisai." If the one who sanctified wants to redeem his house, hamakdish only the one that made the initial sanctification. V'loy hamatfis, and not somebody who passed the kedusha onto a second item. So now, Tani Tana Kame de Rebbe Lazar, a Tana taught before Rebbe Lazar. The pasuk says, "V'im bebehema hatameya." If, let's say, Shelley has a horse, a camel, a donkey, and he dedicated it to temple maintenance, upada be'erkecha, he redeems it with its value. Ma behema tameya miyuchedesh shitchilasa hektish, its initial hektish, v'kula l'shemayim, it's totally to heaven. The reason why it's totally to heaven, you see, if Shelley dedicates a shlomim, a peace offering, it's not totally to heaven. Because when it becomes a shlomim, he gets, after they slaughter it, and they give the lobe of the liver and the kidneys and the fats to the mizbeach, and the breast and the shank to the kohen, he gets something to eat. But when he dedicates a donkey, it's kula l'shemayim. It's all to Bedek Habayis. So Mama Heyman Tamei Miyuchedesh Shitchilas Hektish, it's initial hektish, Mikul L'Shemayim, and it's all to heaven. Umayalim Ba, there's trespass. If Shelley uses it inadvertently, Af Kol Shitchilas Hektish, that's initial hektish, Mikul L'Shemayim Mayalim Ba. So the Gemara says, Amalei Rabbi Lazar Latana, Bishloi Makula L'Shemayim, when it says it's all to heaven, that's Lamute Kachin Kalim. That's to exclude if it would be minor kachim, like a shlomim, like a peace offering, like ma'aseh behema, like toida, thanksgiving offering, because kevin de islu l'ba'alim begavayu, since the owner has a portion in it, he gets the rest of the meat after, as I said, the shank and the breast is given to the kohen, and the sacrificial portions go on the mizbeach. So less bumila, that doesn't have trespass. El tchilas hektish, that it's initial hektish l'ma'utei mai. What does it mean that tchilas hektish udi ispe mila? Says about tchilas hektish udi ispe mila, soif hektish less pe mila. What does that mean? That initial kedusha has mila, and non-initial kedusha does not have mila? But that's not true. It's not true. No, it's soif hektish would be the second generation when you pass hektish from one thing onto something else. But the second generation of hektish does have mila. So what does it mean that soif hektish doesn't have mila? It must be talking about the fifth. Dil millennium chaimish garment. It's talking about the fifth. Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, and it's going according to Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi that the initial hektish you have to add a fifth to, but the soif hektish you don't have to add a fifth to, and it's telling you that the fifth so that's what it means over here. When it says Me'ila over here, it means what is the din of Me'ila. The din of Me'ila is that you have to add a fifth. And it's coming to tell you that, like Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi said, which was a clever right, so it's telling you, like Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, that he says that on an initial hektish you have to add a fifth, which mila means that you have to have a fifth. On hektish sheni, on a second generation, you don't have to add the fifth, and therefore that. Let's see it inside again. Says the Gemara. Elatchilas hektish lemutei mai, says the Gemara, Dilma le'inyan chaimish karmet. It's coming to tell you that the fifth that he adds, Ukrib Yeshua and Levi, and it's telling you that the din of a fifth that you have to add, which is a din of Me'ilah, that when you're Moil you have to add a fifth, that's only by Tchilas Hektish, that's only by first generation Hektish. By second generation Hektish, there's no Milah, meaning that you don't have to add a fifth. Amalei, so he said to Rebbe Lazar, in Hachi Kamina, this is what I meant, which is a very big Chiddush. It doesn't sound like that. Well, I want to repeat this again because it's such a big Chiddush. Elatchilas hektish, that which it says that the tchilas hektish yamoylin ba lemutei mai. Tchilas hektish dispa mila while soif hektish lespa mila. What does that mean? It doesn't mean that second generation hektish doesn't have the law of trespass. It certainly does have the law of trespass, but it means that second generation hektish doesn't have the chiyuv of a fifth, which is a consequence of Mila. Dilma Linyan Chaimish Karmet, or Krib Yeshua ben Levi, who says that only first generation hektish do you have to add a fifth, while on second generation hektish you don't have to add a fifth. Amalei in Hachi Kamina. This is indeed what I meant. Now, Rabbi say, before I let you go, for this marvelous Yom Tov that's coming up, first of all, just leave it in the Saba. Just leave it in the mailbox. I'll take it from there. Before we get to this remarkable Gemara, a remarkable Yom Tov, I want to say, and I tell all my Talmidim, and I want to repeat it, that the Seder is a unbelievable time to daven for whatever a person needs. For example, if somebody has, first of all, if you have a relative that needs a shidduch, so it's brought down from many of the great people that person should go and open the door by Shvach HaMoscha and greet Eliyahu. That's number one. That's a very nice thing to do. If somebody needs a shidduch, or somebody needs a child, or somebody needs a refuah, by the spot before Manishtana of Kana ben Shoyel, here a child should ask. That's a great place to ask Hashem for what we need, because Kana ben Shoyel means that here the son of the Father in heaven makes their requests. Another very good place is by Holach Ma'anya, when we lift the matzah, we take off the egg and the zroa, and we lift up the matzah. That's a time to ask Hashem for parnasa from heaven, because Hashem gives parnasa. Parnasa is from God. Another very good time to ask is during benching, when we say Harachamanu Yefanaseinu v'chavod. Remember that alachagni doinin ala tfua. It's my minig. Different people have different minhagim, but it's my minig that I pour the kaishel elyo already before benching. And the reason why I pour the kaishel elyo before benching, many people pour it before Shvach HaMoscha. I know it was the minig of Rav Sternbach that he poured it later by the fourth cup. But most people pour it by Shvach HaMoscha. I pour it already before benching. I believe that was the minig of Rav David Feinstein. And the idea is that it should be already there when we say in the Harachmans that Harachman Yishlanu Eseli Anavi Zachal Atayv Vivasalanu B'Seiris Toivos. My minig is then afterwards, after Shvach HaMoscha, to take the wine from the Kaishel Eliyahu and fill it up in the cases for the fourth cup. We should remember that since the Kedusha of the night of the Seder is very great and the Shekhinah is there, the Yetzer Hara is at his ferocious best. And forewarned is forearmed. If you come to the Seder because of a mad rush and you have a headache, I recommend that after Kiddush, you should have a coffee. Don't make a shahakal, because your Bari Priagatham patters the shahakal. You don't make a Bari Nefashis on it either, because if you make a Bari Nefashis, then you'll have a problem. It'll cover then the bracha on the karpas, and then you might have to make another Bari Priadam on the maror, which is a problem. So you don't make a Bari Nefashis after it. You have any questions? Shelley is ready over there, I see. He'll be up late. We want to thank all of you very much for coming and doing this season, hardly missing a beat. Remember, Motzi Yom Tov at 10, Thursday night at 9:30, Motzi Shabbos at 10, and second Motzi Yom Tov again at 10, and then back to business as usual, probably, what is that, Wednesday, right? The first night after, the first Isru Chag is Wednesday? So Isru Chag is Wednesday, so it just dawned on me that we do not have a sponsor yet for Achrei Mois. That's right. We do not have a sponsor yet for the shir on Achrei Mois. That's going to be on Wednesday after Yom Tov. So anybody who wants to sponsor Achrei Mois, 718-916-3100, rmmwsi@aol.com. I did the Mishnah Yomis already. It's in the books. Thank you for joining us, and have a wonderful evening.